Alright everyone, welcome back to B Mother Reviews. Today we've got this absolute beast of a statue from Prime 1 Studio. This is of course the new 52 Batman. You can see he's flying through the air right here. But the important question is, should he be flying straight into your collection? Let's find out in the review up next. Alright, so off the top of the review, I usually get into the backstory of the character, but I think we all know the story behind Batman. I mean, Bruce Wayne's parents are murdered when he's a child, and he goes on to become the world's greatest crime-fighting detective. And, hey, we all know the story, as I said. But this Batman, this is the new 52 Batman, as I mentioned off the top, and the new 52 was a little bit of a controversial era for DC. It followed straight on the heels of this mega crossover event called Flashpoint and essentially rebooted the entire DC universe. What they did is they took DC, Vertigo, and Wildstorm, kind of put them all under one umbrella and launched 52 new titles straight from the #1 issue. And at the time, I thought that was kind of a big deal because that included Action Comics and Detective Comics, and both of those series had the landmark 1000th issue in sight at the time, so I was kind of upset about that. And on top of that, it was a bit of a slap in the face to longtime readers because they were taking decades of stories and continuity, just kind of throwing them out the window. Sort of. You know, some characters saw a hard reset. Some characters like Green Lantern just kind of continued on like nothing ever happened. And Batman, he was kind of in the middle. They grabbed some of his better storylines and kind of folded them into this new backstory for the new 52 Batman. And, you know, some parts of New 52 weren't well received, but I think Batman overall, the series by Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo, was pretty popular with readers. Had some really great storylines like Court of the Owls and, Death of the Family. And, it was pretty popular, as I said. Now, the new 52 didn't last very long. It went from about 2011 to 2016, which was kind of unfortunate for Prime 1 Studio because this statue didn't even go up for pre-order till 2018 when DC was well into the new Rebirth storylines, which kind of reset everything back to pre-Flashpoint. So this statue here represents a pretty small window of the overall Batman history. So is it still worth picking up? Well, let's get into Sculpt and design next, and you'll find out. Alright, so New 52 wasn't just a reboot of the storyline for characters. A lot of characters also saw a redesign of their costume, and Batman was included in that. You'll notice no undies on the outside. He's just got the plain gray pants and plain gray shirt here. And also gone is the sort of spandex costume look. They added quite a few panel lines to the costumes to give it a more modern armored appearance for the character. And you'll see that here on this sculpt. And it's a very smooth looking costume. And there's a little bit of texture here in these areas between his shoulder and his pec. But other than that, it's a very smooth, non-textured sculpt. And it gives him a really sleek appearance, I think. The boots and gloves especially have a much more heavily armored appearance. The fins on the side here look like blades. So it's a little bit of a departure from the normal or classic Batman look, but it's still quintessential Batman, I think. You'll notice also this is a very dynamic looking piece. I mean, he's flying through the air here, which you don't often see with Batman statues, and I like that. It's a bit of a departure from the norm. I really love the cape, how it's flowing off to the side. You see all of it here, all the wrinkles and folds. They did a really nice job with that detailing there. This pose is based right on the cover of Batman #3. But on that cover, he's sort of gliding through midair. So they had to come up with a base that could hold him up in the air and still give you that feeling that he's flying or gliding through the air. And they've done a really nice job with this base here. You've got the customary bat gargoyles here, but there's a lot of building debris all over the ground here. And what I really like about it is this broken glass window frame here. It just really gives you that sort of rundown feel of Gotham City, or I suppose this could be, a rundown portion of Wayne Manor as well. It just has a very Gotham feel to it, and I think it suits this statue really well. And as I said, it does its job perfectly. It holds him up in the air, but doesn't give the appearance that he's attached to it. It still looks like he's flying. So great job with the sculpt and design on this statue. All right, moving on, we're going to talk a little bit about the paint on this statue. The base, it's pretty straightforward, gray and black used for these rock areas here, but they've added some browns in there as well to give it that sort of dirty, grimy look that you would expect for a rundown area of Gotham City. It looks pretty good overall. Batman himself, the gray areas of the costume, I like the shading they did there. It's not too in your face or over the top, but it still brings out all that muscle detail that you want to see with a superhero. The black areas, some bluish gray highlights in there to help, again, bring out some of the detail there. The blades on the back of his gauntlet there have a nice worn look to them. Overall pretty good. There's some silver accents as well. You'll see on the back of the hand up to the knuckles, and there's little silver accents kind of throughout the suit as well. Skin tones look pretty good. Looks like they've used that translucent resin that they often do to give it that sort of more realistic skin look. The lips look good. I mean, overall, it's just a nice clean paint job on this statue. I really don't think you're going to have too many concerns with it. Alright, so before we move into production and build quality here, I just want to point out a couple of the switch out parts that come with the exclusive version. First, you get an alternate portrait here where he's gritting his teeth, and you also get an alternate left hand where he's holding a big chunk of kryptonite there, heading into a battle of Superman, of course. This portrait here is actually probably closer to the original source art, so it's actually nice to have that one. And it's always nice to have options on any statue, so here's what you get with the exclusive version. Okay, production and build quality. This is a massive statue. It's huge, so you might want a little bit of help from somebody to put it together. And it is going to take some time, so just be aware of that as you're unpacking and assembling. Set aside a good block of time to do that. For the most part, it goes together pretty well. You do get this assembly card inside the box. It shows where everything goes inside the two boxes, and on the back it's got step-by-step instructions on how to put it together. Now, one thing that's interesting about this piece is how he connects to the base, and you'll see at the back here what I mean. He actually bolts on. You have a nut that you got to thread on to the end of the bolt, one here which connects to his boot, and then one here which connects to the cape. And don't worry, you're not going to see these big ugly bolts and nuts on the back of your statue. They gave you two cover plates that you just slot into place there, and they stay in with magnets. So you don't see them, and it's pretty seamless actually. It looks pretty good from the back there. Speaking of magnets, these magnets are really strong, especially this one here on his left hand. So just be really careful when you're taking off that hand, because it's awfully close to the wall, and you don't want to break off those blades on his gauntlet by yanking it off and smashing into that wall there. So just be careful with that. The tip of the gun here, this is a separate piece, and it just sits loose into the end of his grapnel gun. It is metal, but it is pretty small and thin, so you don't want to drop that on the floor accidentally. If you step on it, you're probably going to break it. But other than that, it's a big, nice, quality feeling piece from Prime 1, and really big actually. And you can notice it's quite large. Batman would measure about 21 inches tall if he was standing up straight, which at a quarter scale that would make him about 7 feet or so. So he's oversized a little bit. If it's really important to you that all your statues scale closely together, this guy might not fit well into your collection. On the flip side, it's a big, beastly Batman statue that could be easily the centerpiece of your display. It does have a couple issues, notably with the cape. You'll see in here around his shoulders, they've lost a little bit of detail there for some reason. I don't know what exactly happened, but you can see in the promo pics there's some more wrinkles and folds that come down into this area, and on the statue it's pretty smooth. It looks to me like it was maybe thickened up for some reason. But who knows? It's not too bad, but you will notice it if you compare it to the original pictures. The other problem with this statue in particular is there's a little bit of a gap here where the cape sits into the top of his collarbone area. I've kind of scoured around on Facebook looking at as many in-hand photos as I can, and some of them have it and some of them don't. I could probably play around with the fitment a little bit better, but this is my friend Marco's statue, so I don't want to mess around with it too much. But there is a little bit of a gap there on some of the pieces I've noticed. Other than that, the statue is a pretty nice quality piece, and I think you're going to be happy with it. Alright, so it's time to wrap up this review of the new 52 Batman from Prime 1 Studio. And I asked earlier on, even though this represents a fairly narrow window of Batman history, is it worth bringing into your collection? Now, there's a few things that you got to note before you pick it up. It did lose some detail here in the cape where it comes over the shoulders. There was definitely more wrinkles and folds in this area on the promo pics. You might have a little bit of a fitment issue here where the cape fits into the body, and the scale is worth noting as well. This is a very big statue. It's definitely over 1/4 scale, so depending on your collection, that might be worth taking into account. Now, all that said, I think the positives of this statue outweigh the negatives by a landslide, and the biggest positive for me is the action pose. I love that he's flying through the air. You just don't see this type of dynamic pose for a lot of Batman statues out there. And really one of my favorite things is the cape. I love that you get to see the whole cape flowing out to the side, all the wrinkles and folds. It's really an iconic element of the Batman costume, and you really get to see it all here in all its glory, and I really love that about this piece. The base is pretty innovative. I like how it holds him up in the air, but it doesn't ruin that illusion that he's sort of gliding mid-flight and about to launch to the next building across the street there. It captures some iconic elements of Gotham here. You got the gargoyles, you got kind of the rundown city or building here as well, the broken glass. It's a really kind of an iconic looking Batman statue, I think. And I think Prime 1 overall did a really nice job with it. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that review. New 52 Batman from Prime 1 Studio. Stay tuned to the channel, and we'll talk to you guys soon.